Hello guys, welcome to Sideline the Source with me, Alex, and yeah, a disappointing result for Manchester United today. I thought I'd just make a little, sort of, not a reactionary sort of thing. I'm not a reactionary person. I was just going to get rid of my earphone. But yeah, I think just looking at how we played yesterday, I'd like to just sort of put my opinion across. I know I sort of come across pretty negative with how I put out my videos and how I think we should line up. I never really sort of talk about the PSG games, the Leipzig games, even the Chelsea game or the Newcastle game. But it's simply because the Newcastle game we didn't play too great, but we scored a lot of goals late. The Leipzig game we didn't sort of play too great, but we scored a lot of goals late. A moment of brilliance from Marcus Rashford in the PSG game, as you've probably all seen, sort of won us the game. And then, as well as that, Chelsea, underwhelming performance. Premier League games have been very underwhelming. In this Arsenal game, it had 0-0 written all over it from the kickoff. From kickoff, 0-0. So I'll just talk you through the team. So United lined up with what they'd like to say is a diamond formation, but it wasn't a diamond formation when you play Fred and McTominay. It doesn't become a diamond formation because you can't get your players forward. You don't have that compressed sort of pressing formation when you're playing two central defensive midfielders near enough. McTominay, I don't know what McTominay plays, but as far as I can see, he's probably just a backup player. If anything, he's just a backup player. Fred plays that central defensive midfielder role. As much as he is pretty poor in possession when it's solely him in that CDM role, he is pretty good at playing that central defensive midfielder option. And if he has two players to the left and, a player to the left and a player to the right of him in a diamond formation, you can just offload the ball to, say, Fernandes or Pogba or Van der Beek if he plays there. So I'd like to say this is more of a 4-2-2-2. We've played a very narrow 4-2-2-2, which doesn't really work. No one's really ever played this style of football where you don't have the width in a 4-2-2-2. It's like a defensive 4-4-2, but very, very narrow. It just doesn't work. And I'm pretty surprised Ollie put it out there. I think he tried to play Fred in like a central midfield position, but I just don't even think that worked because Fred was dropping too deep. It just didn't work. It didn't work. So then, two up front, back four, pretty standard. Then we look at Arsenal, which it's a 3-4-3, but I think more or less it dropped very much into this sort of formation. It was just a 5-2-3. It was very deep, but then on the attack, you sort of had Bellerin cutting inside, say to here, if you can see what I'm doing there. He'd sort of cut in there, Saka would cut in here, and Saka would get in this little pocket, and then he'd come back out to this sort of depth. But it's much like the formation I was talking about, apart from the fact these two players in the middle, El Neni and Thomas Partey, there he is, as you can see, run the show. So what happened with this side is, as soon as Saka got forward and into this pocket, and as soon as Bellerin got forward and into this pocket, you saw Partey drop and El Neni drop. So they still had a sort of back five. It was very clever by Arteta. It's a pretty nice system, to be honest, because then Tierney goes out a bit further left. Gabriel, who's pretty fast in himself, can go out onto that right-hand side, and then you drop into what seems like a three at the back. So you can have Partey, Holding, and El Neni, who are, Partey and El Neni in themselves are very physical. They have a physical presence. They're very good defensively. They know the positioning. Partey's very, very creative. I've never really watched Partey that much, but I didn't realise how great of a distributor he can be as well and bring the ball forward. He's very good at that. But three physical players in the midfield, Gabriel on that right-hand side, Tierney on that left, and then as soon as these players, Saka runs back into this position, Bellerin runs back into this position, these two players can move back forward and try and dominate the midfield. So that's what happened. Now, here's my take on how United should have lined up. So United straight away, you've had great success against Leipzig. You've had decent success against PSG. I mean, taking into consideration what sort of happened here, what players would you play? It's a tricky one. But this is how I'd have lined up. So, Greenwood's had a great game midweek. You can't take him off. Rashford's in great form. You can't take him off. Fernandes is sort of your creative, your transition from midfield or defence, say, because he drops a bit deeper sometimes. He's a transition from that back line to the front two. So Fernandes has to play, and I play him there. Then, who else would I take out the side? So McTominay, let's say I'll put over here who shouldn't be playing. McTominay's over there. Straight up. We'll look at the subs as well. We've got a few options on the bench. Obviously, Martial's still got a suspension. But who should be playing out of this sort of back few? To which then I'd say, Cavani. Don't know why we've signed Cavani, but he doesn't make the team ever for me. I don't know why we've brought in Cavani. He's had a nice little touch against Leipzig. I think he's had a little bit of a play around against Arsenal. He sort of just did a nice few touches, but no, Cavani's nothing. Cavani is a nothing player. I don't know why he's come in. Pogba. Pogba I'll move on to. I'll go backwards. Pogba's a tricky one. Because I liked his passion in that game against Arsenal, and it's a shame he gave away that penalty, because I think other than that, he didn't play too bad. He blocked a shot at the near post. He read that Willian was going to try and shoot. He sort of tried to get the game going, and he didn't really lose the ball as much as he used to. So, I want to keep Pogba in the side, but for reasons I'll explain in a minute, he's going to sit on the bench for me for now. For now. The midfield two are Van der Beek and Fred. So Fred's a great defensively. Van der Beek, obviously brilliant at the press. He's great in the positions he picks up. And he can also drop into like Fernandes and Van der Beek getting forward, whilst Fred is sort of sitting in the defensive midfielder position. But Fred as well, as a two with Van der Beek, I reckon he'd still be very, very good. Now you look at who do you put at the back. This is the big question, because we were pretty solid. We were very solid against Arsenal. Didn't look like we were going to concede. I can't really think of anything else that you can sort of do in this game. So Wan-Bissaka has to start as arrogant as I think he is, and he needs to sort of he needs to wake up in a few games, because a lot of the games he does get caught out of the far post. For example, in this Arsenal game itself, crossing to the back post, near enough a goal. Luke Shaw on this left-hand side, he needs to play on that left-hand side, because apparently he's a brilliant set-piece taker from what we've seen. I mean, he's been taking set pieces, nearly set up Maguire for his goal. I like how he gets forward. I think he adds a bit more defensively than Telles. But obviously, I think Luke Shaw at the moment, probably one of our best players for the time being. Telles, he can sort of come into the side, maybe come on if we need to push forward a bit. He can play left wing if anything, and then that lets Rashford go forward and it becomes a 4-3-3. But yeah, this is what I'm thinking here now. We have Lindelof playing out on this right-hand side. Maguire can sort of play in the middle as well. In fact, no, I think Maguire played out on this left. Lindelof through the middle it was. And then Tuanzebe plays on this right-hand side. Because what that does is, Wan-Bissaka can get forward and do whatever he wants. He can get back and he can pick the ball up in high positions here, for example, which allows a counter-attack. It's a pretty clever system. 5 at the back, 5-2-1-2, pretty standard. Tuanzebe covers for Aaron Wan-Bissaka and also gets the game time he deserves, because I think we all forget about the season when he played for Aston Villa, got them promoted. He came back, didn't do anything, just played in the under-23s. I think he got injured and then he was out for 10 months. And then he played that game against PSG, against probably the best attackers in the world, and pockets, say, Mbappe. I mean, I don't think he did, but he played an incredibly good game. So I don't know how he can drop him so much. That then, matching up against this side, it's pretty much a similar system. Apart from your front three are a bit more compact, and you give the freedom for Rashford and Greenwood to go out to the left and right, and Fernandes a bit more creative through the middle. So that's how I think we should be lining up, because it's more or less what Arteta does. But instead of having like a cover in the midfield, because your defence is so secure, unlike Arsenal's, say, which is why he puts his system into play with Partey and El Nani, who can drop in deeper as well, our attack becomes a lot more fluid. So that's my two pieces on this. Matic himself, I think he's a good backup player again. I don't think he doesn't quite make the team like McTominay, but he'd probably make the bench. Martial, I think he'd come in for Greenwood, and he'd add a bit of more. I think he'd add a bit of a different outlook onto the game. But then again, Greenwood or him would be on the bench, so it's more or less a bench job for him. Mata deserves to be on the bench. He's been playing great of late. Pogba on the bench for me. Teller's on the bench, and then you'd probably have Dean Henderson and perhaps and I'm trying to think of another centre back that we have. Bailly, for example. You just have another centre back, and then that'd make up your 7 on the bench, which I think is a great 7 to bring on. But sadly, he doesn't want to drop McTominay, and so on and so forth. But let me know what you think. I mean, the game yesterday, interesting one. I'd like to see a bit of a different outlook on these sort of games. But yeah, it's been tricky. It's been tricky in the past for United, and I think now more than ever it's going to be even trickier, because unless you go to a 5 at the back, which I don't think Ollie wants to. He wants to play a 4. He wants to try and get the attack going, but it won't. You need to give that creative fluidity to the strikers and the attacking midfielders, and you need to sort of have a more solid defence and more cover in the defence, should you say. So the likes of the Pogba mistake doesn't happen. But for now, that's my team, and that is how we should have really set up against Arsenal. In hindsight, obviously. But that's sort of how I'd set up anyway. And so yeah, that is how I think we should have lined up. Let me know what you think in the comments. Let me know what you think about the United game and how that went. So yeah, if you did like the video, indeed, leave a like on the video. Subscribe if you're new and you're sort of liking this new content I'm putting out. And I shall catch you in the next episode. Ciao.